Hi, I'm Karm, a 16-year-old that's really interested in brain-computer interfaces. Brain-computer interfaces are like a connection between the human brain and external objects and machines. Today, it's already being used to help quadriplegics regain function in their limbs and help patients with epilepsy stop seizures before they occur. And in the near future, we could even use them to communicate telepathically. So brain-computer interfaces actually work in a really simple way. They work by acquiring your brainwaves, analyzing them and extracting some insight, and then translating that into desired commands. So acquiring brainwaves is actually a really important step in that process, and that's where electroencephalography, or EEG for short, comes in. So our brains actually communicate with the whole body using nerve cells, or neurons. So these neurons transmit information from one to the other until it reaches the brain, or vice versa. It's very similar to a chain reaction. So let's say your foot hits a door or an object. Well, then the skin cells around your foot will tell the neurons what has occurred, and then these neurons will transmit the information from one to another, just like a chain reaction, until it reaches the brain. The brain will then process what has occurred and then send an appropriate response back in the same way. So neurons actually do this through action potentials. I won't get into action potentials in this video, but you can think of it like an activation or firing for neurons. So neurons always fire the same way, but depending on what you're doing, they'll fire at different rates or frequencies. And when large chunks and patches of neurons fire at the same time, your brain actually emits electromagnetic waves. Now we can't see or feel these waves, but that's where EEG comes in. So the way that EEG measures this electrical activity is through small metal discs called electrodes. These electrodes are placed on your scalp. When choosing where to place electrodes on the scalp, you would use the international standard, which is the 10-20 system. So this is a diagram of the 10-20 system. And wherever you see circles is where you would place electrodes. Now the reason this system was created was to ensure that you could get consistent and accurate results with EEG. If you're wondering why it's called a 10-20 system, it's because the distance between adjacent electrodes is usually 10 to 20% of the total scalp length. So electricity is actually always flowing in your body, and it's moving from negatively charged areas to positively charged areas. So the body contains fluids with ions that allow for electrical conduction. And so that's why, as electricity is flowing throughout the body, electrodes, which are just electrical conductors, can detect electrical activity and monitor it. The intensity of these waves is usually not high, and so it's measured in terms of microvolts. However, as I mentioned before, there are different brainwave frequencies, and they all represent different brainwave activities. Here's a sample EEG recording. Whenever there's a large spike like this one, we know that the person has blinked. The thing is, it's not always this easy. In this case, we knew right away what these spikes meant, but usually researchers will use a machine learning algorithm to automatically classify patterns. With EEG, temporal resolution is great, which means that whenever a neuron fires, EEG will be pretty close to picking that up in real time. But where EEG lacks is spatial resolution, which means that you don't always know where neurons are firing, and as a result, you can't always tell what activities are occurring in the brain. And so EEG is really powerful and useful because it's a non-invasive technique. You don't need surgery to use it. This makes it both cheap and safe. In fact, companies like Interaxon and Emotive are releasing EEG headsets that put EEG into the hands of everybody. So I actually used EEG and brain-computer interfaces to build a game of Flappy Bird that I control with my mind. And so that's it for this technique. I'm really excited to see how EEG will evolve and how brain-computer interfaces will help society next. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you're interested in my Flappy Bird game, please do check it out in the description below.